We knew coming into this game it was not going to be an easy task to beat James Harden, Kevin Durant, and the Brooklyn Nets. Home or away, doesn't matter. And the Raptors dropped this one 116-103 and now fall to 6-5 on the season. Back-to-back losses now for the Toronto Raptors. This is what we talked about in the last game, right? We talked about not having an extended losing streak after your big 5-game win streak. Now you've lost 2 consecutive games. They got to bounce back. And it ain't easy their next game either, but we'll get to that later on. The story of this ball game is simple. The lack of three-point shooting and that abysmal third quarter. That's the story of the game. Let's break this thing down, though, right from the start. First quarter, Raptors have a tough time shooting the ball. However, their defense just does its thing, and they're only stuck 3 after one quarter of play, 29-26. And in the second quarter, the Raptors continue to dig in defensively, but they find their stroke offensively. They're plus 10, 34, 24. And the Raptors are up by 7 at halftime. They had a flurry there at the end of the second quarter to get that 7-point lead. And they're buzzing at halftime. You've got to come out in the third quarter with that same intensity. They did the total opposite. The Brooklyn Nets came out desperate. It seemed desperate, and the Raptors were not ready for it. The Brooklyn Nets just absolutely punched them in the gut. They won the third quarter 35-17, but that doesn't do justice. The fact that they outscored the Raptors, well, the bottom line, it was a 9-0 run to start the quarter, right? You have a 7-point lead, and then just like that, you're down 2. And your offense is sticking. You can't get anything going there. Durant's making shots. Lo and behold, they get in the bonus with 8 minutes left. In the first 4 minutes, we were abysmal on the fouls. You can blame the referees all you want. Either way, they're in the bonus. Up. Well, it was like 5 or 6 at the time or something like that. With 8 minutes to go, this is not looking good, and it didn't end well either. They had a couple of runs. They got it back to 2 at one point in the third quarter, but they counterpunched with a 7-0 run, brought it back up to 9, and that was really the final big punch the Raptors did. They lost that quarter, as I mentioned, 35-17, and you're minus 18 in the quarter. You went into the third quarter buzzing, the building's rocking, and you're up 7. You leave the third quarter minus 11. And you just can't do that against a team that good. It reminds me a lot of what game would that be? NBA Finals, Game 2 against the Golden State Warriors. Remember we had that lead going into the third quarter, and they went on that ridiculous run to start that third quarter. Raptors couldn't make a shot, and then he tried to crawl back into it. It didn't work. And that was really what we saw today. In the fourth quarter, they made a few little runs, but nothing substantial enough, and even you still lose the fourth quarter, 28-26. Let's talk about some players. Pascal Siakam played in his first game, and I know I'm going to hear everybody saying, well, you don't need the guy. I mean, you still lost without him. Whatever nonsense people want to make up. He had 15 points, 4 boards, 1 dime, shot 5 of 12, was 4 of 5 from the free throw line, 1 of 3 from 3, had a steal and 2 blocks in the game. He was obviously in a minute restriction. Remember, guys, he didn't play any preseason. He has not played any of the first, I guess, before this game, the first 10 games of the season. He's going to be out of mojo for at least a few games, so expect it. And plus, he didn't play the full minutes today. You had to play guys like Boucher, who, as we mentioned in the last video, has really been bad this year. His shooting has been way off. He just really has not looked good. I mean, he made some decent plays today, but you could arguably say in that last push the Raptors had, they got it down to, was it 7 or something like that? And he had the ball, and he traveled, turned it over, and they ranked it back up, and that was it. But I'm not going to blame him for the loss, but I'm just saying, Pascal Siakam, you're going to get more. He's going to be a 35-minute guy or whatever the case may be when he's 100% ready to go, and minutes have been brought up and up and up. Scotty Barnes didn't quite impose himself offensively in this game. 8 points, 7 boards, 4 dimes. Shot 4 of 7 from the field. Only took 7 shots in the game. Obviously, with bringing Pascal back and him taking 12, obviously Scotty's going to take less shots, of course. But the thing we love about Scotty, he had 5 steals in the game, including one insane, just full-on strip of Kevin Durant. You gotta love to see that from Scotty Barnes. Now, Fred VanVleet, 21 points, 3 boards, 8 dimes, shot 6 of 14 with 6 of 6 from the line, 3 of 8 from 3, had a couple steals. Fred, he did his job in the game. Gary Trent Jr., look, the stats might look terrible. 12 points, 1 board, couple dimes, 7 of 14 shooting. He was 0 of 5 from distance, and he was abysmal in the first half. He didn't get anything going to second. And it's great to see him turn it on there near the end, but you need him to take over. And not a single Raptor in this game took over, right? And that's what we saw on the other side. Kevin Durant, James Harden took over this game. OG Anunoby, 16 points, 8 boards, 3 dimes, 7 of 16 shooting, was 1 of 5 from distance. So him and Gary Trent combined 1 for 10. That's tough. We talk about three-point shooting being a problem. That's big. And then Precious Achiuwa gave you a great punch off the bench. With bringing Pascal back, inserting him into the starting unit, that moves Precious Achiuwa back, obviously, with Khem Birch not able to play today. That pushed Precious Achiuwa to the bench. 13 points, 8 boards for Precious. He was great. He was active. 6 of 11 from the field, was 1 of 2 from 3, had a steal in the block in the game today. He gave you a great impact off the bench, and that was great to see from Precious, because in the starting unit, he seemed to be getting overwhelmed at times and trying to do way too much, coming off the bench, letting the offense come to him, and you love to see it from him. Now, let's get to the numbers, because we talked about three-point shooting, and I'll break it down here. They shot 52% from the field. No matter who, don't forget who you're playing. Allowing a team to shoot 52% from the field, it's tough. It is tough to win ball games that way. Then they shoot 45% from 3. They knocked down 17 threes. They were also 85% from the free throw line. The Raptors shoot 47% from the field, so not too shabby. But they shoot 24% from three-point range, 7. They were plus 10 in three-point shooting. I mean, you're just not going to win games that way. And that's fine. We knew coming into this season, really, that shooting was going to be a problem for this team. We knew defensively they were going to be active all over the place. You still out 116. But shooting would be the problem. And tonight, it was the this afternoon, I guess, it was the three-point shooting. 24% from on the arc, 78% from the free throw line. And then there were some stats. There were some weird stats that usually the Raptors have flat out dominated this year, but they got dominated. The Raptors were minus 14 on the glass. That's not what we've been used to seeing. You could arguably say, well, Khem Birch, a big part of that, and Siakam only had 4 boards, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. But you were minus 14 in the glass. They didn't quite have that. They were minus 4 in the offensive boards, which is really out of character for this team this season. Now, they were still plus 8 in turnovers, right? They had 16. We only had the 8 turnovers. Great stuff. And points in the paint. The Raptors were dominating, plus 18 in points in the paint. But the problem was the outside shooting. That third quarter, 35-17, and then the disparity of 10 three-point shooting differential. You guys can put those words together. I can't, apparently. And obviously Kevin Durant and James Harden took over a game. You look at the Raptors stats, you look at the Raptors players today, not one player took over. You could say a guy got hot at a time, but nobody took over a game like James Harden and Kevin Durant. Durant had 31 points, 7 boards, 7 dimes, shot 11 of 18, 6 of 6 from the line, 3 of 6 from 3. He was straight out ridiculous. And James Harden was terrible in the first half. But you look at his second half numbers and even the fourth quarter numbers, he was electric. He didn't make a fourth quarter or a three-point shot until the fourth quarter. He knocked down 3. He had 28 points, 10 boards, 8 dimes, shot 10 of 20, 5 of 6 from the line, 3 of 10 from three-point range. Those guys got it done when their team needed it. And the Raptors, they didn't quite get it. That third quarter just flat out killed them. They couldn't sustain a run. At one point, it was a 26-4 run in that quarter. It was bad. Now, these games do happen, and for such a young squad, these are learning experiences. And I hate to say it like that, but because this team has been so competitive and so good this season, sometimes you got to take a step back and realize what this team is and who the heck they just faced, right? Now, the next game for the Raptors is in Boston again, taking on the Celtics. It's a 7:30 tip-off there on Wednesday night. Last time we faced the Celtics, we absolutely smushed them in their home opener. They still have not found their footing completely yet this year. This is a time where the Raptors look to end their losing streak, win both times at TD Garden to start the season, and make another statement that, hey, we may have lost to Brooklyn, but we're still here. You know, you lose that game, you've lost 3 in a row, you're back to 500 again, right? So this team needs that win, not just standings-wise and whatnot, because it's so early. They need it morale-wise. They need to feel it again, right? Because a young team can go in peaks and valleys. They can win 5 straight, lose 4 straight. That's a young squad, right? But we want this team to be different than all the other young squads in the NBA. We want them to say, hey, you know, you lose a couple tough games, you bounce back with a tough win on the road in Boston. That's a statement game on Wednesday night. All right, so you know what, guys? That is going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed the video and you didn't enjoy the game today, smack the like button. Do appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button. You guys are not already. Comment down below. Thoughts on the video, thoughts on the game. Would you like, would you not like from today's game for the Toronto Raptors? Twitter link is down below, so follow up there if you've not done so already, guys. And Instagram page. That's also down below, so follow up there if you have not done so already, guys. And I will talk to you Leafs edition tomorrow night as they host the Los Angeles Kings at Scotiabank Arena. 7:30 puck drop there. The Buds looking to stay red hot since that big win last night against the Boston Bruins at home, all right? And as for the Raptors, as we've talked about, they look to end this mini 2-game losing streak on the road in Boston on Wednesday night. 7:30 tip-off there. I wouldn't say it's a must-win, but it's must-win for morale and must-win for this team, all right? So thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll talk to you guys then.